everybody, it's Lori here from LR Design Studios, and this is Basics in Sculpting. It is my new series on YouTube where I sculpt a baby from start to finish. This is lesson 1, and lesson 1 we will be sculpting a basic baby face. I will go through the actual steps I take to sculpt this baby face, and I'll share it with you along with the tools I use and some tips along the way. I'm hoping that you follow along and enjoy it. I'm also hoping that you continue to follow the series, and by the end of the series, we'll have sculpted together a whole baby. And I hope you guys really have a good time doing this because I think I'm going to have fun doing it too. Anyway, let's get started.
Here are some of the tools that we will be using. Down below I have links to some tools that you can buy and some clay. That's coconut oil in the little jar there. Onto the basic foil head armature. There is nothing more basic than a foil head armature. It's literally a ball of foil. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, it is a little bit more challenging than you think, because you can't just wad up a ball of tin foil and go for it. I mean, you can, but you probably shouldn't. We're going to compress this foil, we're going to use the table, we're going to roll it around, and we're going to shape it the best we can to make a nice skull to build our face on. Because this is a basic class, we are not really worrying too much about whether or not this size baby is a certain size. We're just kind of winging it and going for it. If you were going to be making a certain size baby, I would suggest you do a print out in the size of the baby you'd like, and when you make your ball, make sure that it fits inside the head with a good 1/4 inch to spare all the way around. You'd be able to do that by having a flat drawing of the baby face and putting the ball of foil that you create in the center of it and see if the outline is a good 1/4 inch. That's a safe bet that you're going to be able to make the head the size that you'd like it to be. But right now, since this is just a basic sculpting class, we're just winging it, and whatever size this baby ends up being is the size it's going to be. We are going for a small baby so that we have time to finish it in a very reasonable amount of time, trying to keep this course about 2 hours. We'll see how that goes. Not really sure that's going to work. As you can see, I'm using my table. This is a glass top table, and I use it a lot when I sculpt. I really love glass top tables for sculpting, but what I'm doing is I'm using it to shape the foil to get a nice smooth surface and to get it to be as round and even as I'd like it to be. As you can see, I'm pointing out here where I have some high spots and low spots that I'm trying to even out, and I'm going to use the table and some turning and rotating to compress the foil into the shape I'd like it to be. Oops, see another high spot here. That's looking a lot better. Oh, a little bit more. Well, sometimes you have to press quite hard if you've already compressed it quite a bit, and this ball is quite firm. I'm trying to make it a little flatter on the front where the face will be. It gives me more of a surface space to build on, without having to worry about the foil sticking out too far and me wanting to create divots for the eyes or nostrils or anything like that. So a more flat surface on the front is what I prefer. Again, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. There's just the way I'm doing it now and the way you'll evolve into doing it. So I'm trying to shape the back of the head here so that it goes a little higher than what the chin will, and then creating my flat surface on the front. Yep. And your hands do get a little sore after a while, but just wait until you start softening up that clay if you think this makes your hands hurt. I do spend quite a bit of time on my armatures because I find that the more symmetrical my armature is, the better and easier it is for me to sculpt a baby on this foil armature. I have less correcting to do with the clay because I have a good foundation, so that's really nice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build up the back of the head a little bit more. Oh, that's way too much foil. That's way too much. No, that's too much. We're going to use a lot less here. Yeah, let's tear it again. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this around where would be the forehead and bring the rest of it to the back and kind of bunch it up and make the back of the head higher and rounder. Again, I could have done this with clay, and I will likely, but it helps if I have a good foundation to build on, and then I can use less clay. What is your favorite size baby to own or sculpt or create, paint maybe? Let me know in the comments below. I tend to like the preemie size babies. This baby is going to be more of a mini baby, but my favorite size is between 14 and 16 inches. I think my Madeline Truly and my Riley Love and Juniper, those babies are just such a really nice size because I can take them places. They're not heavy, they still look realistic, and I don't have all the weight, and they're a lot easier for me to manage, so I really like that size. I'd like to hear what you like. Okay, so now I'm measuring with a tape measure around just to give myself an idea of where it's going to be. Now this is important when you actually care what size baby you're making, when you are setting out for a goal for a certain head circumference. It is very important to measure this. Again, you want to be able to add about 1/4 inch of clay all the way around, and that should give you a rough estimate of what your head size will be. So it's important to measure when you are going for a certain size. And here I'm just going to use a ball stylist. That was what that was there, that wooden tool there. It's just a ball stylist. You can use almost anything to stick up inside. I have a sculpting stand that I use, but right now, again, since this is a basic class, I'm trying very hard not to use my more advanced tools, and I'm trying to use things that would be just simple for you to just pick up and start sculpting. No excuses. You don't need all the fancy tools. Now, they're nice to have, and I really love my sculpting stands, but we're doing our best to do the basic here. Oh, just a few little things that I want to fix before we move on. Again, trying to get this as shaped as well as possible before we put the clay on. And then I'm just sticking it on the stick here so I have something to hold on to, and voila, we have a armature. Now that we have our armature, let's start the process of sculpting this beautiful baby face that we're about to make. You see the other head that I have there? Well, I had already recorded this video, or at least I thought I did. I got partway through, and for some reason my camera cut out. This is new to me. I've been making amateur videos as this is, but I'm trying to get a little better at doing these things, and I obviously did not succeed in recording the video of sculpting that little baby face. She is a keeper, however. Moving on. So as you can see, I've already flattened out some clay. I've taken some clay and I've softened it up in my hands, warmed it up, rolled it around, kneaded it, and I'm making little pancakes that are about roughly 1/8 of an inch thick. Now, again, if you weren't doing a basic sculpting video here, if we weren't doing a basic sculpting video, I would have my pasta roller out and I would be pasta rolling this clay out in order to make sure that the sheets were all pretty much the same thickness. But in your hand, you can get really close. The pasta roller is not a necessity, but it does help. The biggest thing is trying to make sure that you are getting about 1/8 of an inch. After you have a few pieces, we'll get going. Make sure you warm up the clay really well because it will crack when it's cold. So you want it nice and warm. As you can see there, we're doing about 1/8 of an inch. And you can flatten it out on your table. You can use a rolling pin. Like I said, you can use a pasta machine, a pasta roller. But whatever you use, make sure you only use it for clay. Another thing that I use when I am sculpting if my clay is too hard is I have a food processor that is only for clay. I'm going to show you the little baby head again. Isn't she so sweet? I haven't come up with a name for her yet. If you have an idea for a name for her, because she will get a body, she's a keeper for sure, put her name in the comments below, your idea for her name. That would be awesome. Hey, be sure to click subscribe if you would, and the like button if you would as well. That'll help other people see my videos, which I'm hopeful that they do. Anyway, sorry about this voiceover, guys. My recording studio isn't all set up the greatest, and I'm doing my best. So we have this new armature, which is about the same size as the one I did in the video before. So this new baby head should turn out about the same size. They should be sisters. And I did glue the stick up in the foil, but you'll find out later that it came loose anyway. But it did help me in the beginning to get the clay on. As you can see, I'm showing you now how the foil ball actually goes up in the back where the back of the head is, and comes down more in the front where the chin would be. We will be building more of a chin on and adding more clay towards the bottom of the ball than we do anywhere else, and the back of the head actually later, but not in this video. Okay, I'm sticking this in the clay to use as a holder. Again, I do have a sculpting stand that I normally use, but I wanted to show you how you can hold your little thing up there, hold your little stick up there using many different things. You just have to be creative. This time I used a package of clay. It wasn't the greatest thing to use, but it worked. It did the job. We don't have to have all the fancy tools. So I'm re-softening this clay up because it seemed like it was a little firm. There was a little crack in it, and I didn't think that it was quite warm enough to use yet. I'm using the Super Sculpty Living Doll. I do find that when I use Super Sculpty Original, it tends to be a lot more soft, maybe even too soft. This actually was surprisingly nice. It's a little harder to work at first because it is a little firmer, but because it's a little firmer, it allows me to use more softening agents when I'm smoothing without it getting gummy, which I really liked. The Super Sculpty tends to be a little bit more gummy when you use the coconut oil. It's still very usable, but you have to be sparing with it. Okay, let's get going. I'm going to take this first sheet and I'm going to put it on the front of the foil ball, tucking it under the chin area. Make sure that when you do, that you pat the clay into the foil, making sure to push out any air bubbles. We do not want air bubbles between our armature and our clay. This is what can cause cracking and other issues later if you do not try to get those air bubbles out. There's other things that cause cracking, but air bubbles is one of them. I'm pressing that right into the foil and getting it on there really nice, trying to keep everything symmetrical as I do it. Symmetry, every step of the way is the best thing to do. Keep checking it. You'll see I get off and I have to fix things, but I check it all the time so I don't get as off as I could. The bigger the doll you do, the harder it is to keep the symmetry, so you have to start learning how to check it. Then I'm going to take another piece. This one is too big. I don't need that much. And I'm going to fill in the rest on the back of the head there. Again, pressing and blending the clay, pressing it into the foil and blending it into the other piece, making sure that I don't have any air trapped under the clay, between the clay and the armature. I'm always shaping as I go and trying to make sure I maintain a good symmetrical starting point, good symmetrical base. When I squeeze it like this, it's to try to even things out. It's, again, on these smaller dolls, it's something that's easier to do than on the bigger ones. But I like to use my hands on either side of the head at the same time to try to come up with a way to keep them the same on both sides. Now I found a low spot on right there, and it needs filling in, so I'm adding more clay. I'm trying to get you to see it here, but the camera angle isn't really showing it. Just trust me, it's there. They're not the same. One side's higher, one side's lower. And so I'm adding the clay to the lower side. Trying to even that out even before we actually start sculpting. It's very important. If you missed it, you can fix it later, but again, I try to fix things as I go along, as you will see in this video. Just smoothing out on the table again. I use the table as a tool all the time, back and forth, and then over the top and down, and then tilting it side to side and rolling it and rolling it. It's a very handy tool. It helps to level out the clay to give me a nice flat or symmetrical finish. Okay, well, we got the base down. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And we're going to move on. So I take my needle tip tool and I try to find the center of the head, and I usually mark it a little bit lower than the center. Babies' eyes are about midpoint on their faces, and then everything else is down from there. Now I'm going to add more clay to the chin area here, so I know I need to make that line a little bit lower. So that's what I've done. The next thing I do is I try to find the middle of the face, and I do a line. It just helps me to keep on track when I have these areas marked. I'll also slightly mark where I think the nose will probably be, and just an idea of where the mouth will be. And again, I'll be adding more chin to the bottom, so it'll be filling in a little bit there. Next, I take a big ball stylus and I create an eye socket. This will be a closed-eyed baby, but I like to put the eye sockets in anyway. It helps me map out the rest of the face. The eye sockets, I like to put like pretty much one eye between them. And then I just roll around that ball, this tool, and I will widen the sockets a little bit just to get a basic idea of where that's going to be. Next, I'll take a rubber tip tool and I'll push in underneath the eyes. Now this is where that line was. I don't know if you remember. There you go. See? There's that line. And I'm going to push the cheeks forward a little bit. This is just kind of starting to shape the face. I like to bring that forward now so that I have a good base for when I continue to bring that forward when I'm adding cheeks and other parts to the face. I try not to let my face get too wide, because that's a tendency that most sculptors have, including myself, to push out with the clay versus bringing it back in. We end up with flat faces and wide cheeks. So I'm always reminding myself to bring things forward. So we're just getting a basic shape again. Okay. Now we are going to do the brow line. We're going to start the brow line. This is just the basic starting of the brow line. Small piece of clay. And I'm going to roll it into a sausage, probably a ball first. Yeah, I'm going to roll it into a ball first. And then I'm going to roll it into a little sausage. Yes. Excuse me. Then I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. And after I flatten it out, I'm going to flatten it more on the ends and then on the sides where it will touch the clay in the front, on the top of the forehead and by the eyes. So it is more thick in the whole center area and all of the edges are a little thinner. I try to keep it even as possible, and if I find that one side of my head already is a little thicker than the other, if I have this clay a little bit thicker on one side, I'll like even it out by using that side on the lower side. And then I blend it into, well, push it down first. You make sure that you push the clay down so that you're getting a good connection with the clay underneath and you do not have any air bubbles. We're going to push up a little bit on the eye socket to create that ridge. We'll be doing that a lot. We lose it a lot through the work that we're doing. And we're going to blend it into the head. Don't worry, we're going to be adding more. It's looking quite like an alien right now. Let's not lose our eye sockets. Okay. All right, that's where we are. So now I'm pushing it down where the bridge of the nose will be, and I'm kind of rotating my finger along the side where the nose will meet the corner of the eye, where it kind of slopes down there. I'm already starting that shape. Now we will be adding a nose on, but I like to start all the foundation layers having the shapes that we need. Now my handy dandy brush and my coconut oil. You will find I sculpt with a brush more than I sculpt with anything. My fingers and a brush, I could probably make a whole baby with nothing else. So I'm going to use this very lightly dipped in coconut oil to help. What it does is it helps the brush glide across the clay and smooth it out very gently. We do a light touch and I am slowly moving the clay in the shape I want, pushing the cheeks down and towards the nose, creating a little bit of a bridge and creating a little bit deeper socket for the eyes and creating the slope of the cheek away from the eye on the sides and towards the nose. We are going to add more cheeks and nose and eyes and everything, but again, I like to get a nice solid foundation in the shape that I'm going for. This is another time where I can start checking the symmetry to make sure that I haven't gotten too far off, because it's really easy to do. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm marking where my eyes should be, so I know that I can keep my nose centered and my mouth centered as much as possible. Those will also be really close to where the nostrils are as well, the folds there, and the cheeks meet. So it's a good starting point for that as well. I like mapping things out. I like a nice corner of the eye where the brow line and the eye and the nose all kind of marry in together. I love that area, and the sloping and the curving is very important. I work on those areas a lot, as you will see, with a brush, because it's very subtle work. When you use a brush, you move the clay just a tiny, tiny bit at a time, and doing that makes it I want to say easier because you don't make drastic changes that can ruin the work you've done before. You're just making subtle little changes, and believe it or not, that is the way to go. Little tiny bits of changes at a time. A light touch and subtle changes. Okay, now I'm using my hands to try to get that symmetry again. Working on it. I can already see that one cheek is higher than the other. Okay. Now, I told you we were going to add a little bit more clay to the forehead, and now we are. I'm going to make a very small sausage, really skinny one, because I still want my forehead to slope. I don't want to bulk it up too much, but I need to fill in that space there. So I'm going to flatten out that piece of clay, that little sausage, and I'm going to smooth it on one end, but not the end that's meeting the piece that's already on the forehead, because it was thicker there, and I need it to stay thicker to meet up to it. And press it in to make sure that there's no air bubbles, and start blending it down and up. Being gentle as you go so that you don't squish any of the work you've already done. It's a light touch, guys, light touch. It's feathering the clay. Take your time. I still can't believe I've been sculpting for as long as I have been. It's crazy to me. I've been sculpting since 2003, so 19 years now? Yikes. I cannot believe it's been that long. It's crazy. I just sat at my kitchen table and taught myself with some Super Sculpty one day. Decided I was going to do it. And here we are. They didn't have all these videos back then to teach you how to do it. There were a couple of artists that sold DVDs, but other than that, okay. So now, we're going to start working on a cheek. So I make a little teardrop shape, and I stretch out the edges again for blending, so it's higher in the middle, it's thicker in the middle, and then I have the little teardrop part that goes towards the nose. But what I also do is after I make the teardrop shape, I stretch out the part that's going to go up under the eye, so the teardrop ends up having like an odd little hook on it there. Yeah, so that goes up under the eye. Then I just pat that in place to get no air bubbles, and I slightly smooth it. You have to be very careful on this part because these areas you can easily mess up the work you've done already. Let's do the other side. Yeah, this little stand here with the clay isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it does the job, and like I said, we're doing basics here. Basics. Later on in some other videos, I will show my sculpting stands and how I use them, and you'll see how that works. But I just didn't want anyone to think they couldn't do it because they didn't have the stands. That piece is too big. Now, other people do make their little teardrops at the same time. They'll make one for the left side and one for the right side, and they'll make them with the same size piece of clay, and that's awesome, and maybe that's what you'll want to do. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I'm just not that person. I don't know why. Occasionally I'll do that, but it's not something I'm anal about making sure I do. Oh, there she goes, tipping over. Let's find a new hole here. So I did make that piece a little bit bigger than it needed to be. I do find that the one that matters the most for me is ears. Making sure my ears are the same size. So that will be something that I will grab 2 pieces of clay the same size and make sure that my ears are the same amount of clay in them, because it's really easy to not do that and not notice it because they're on opposite sides of the head. Yeah, just keep tearing off clay because it's too much. Okay, So now we're doing the same thing on this side that we did on the other side. I think that maybe my next video I'm going to try to angle my camera a little differently. This overhead shot is okay, but I had to keep remembering that it was overhead to try to tilt the head the other way, so it could tilt up for you guys to see it. So now I'm taking my brush again, dipping it in a little coconut oil and wiping some off because you don't want too much. It can make it sticky, especially if you're using just plain Super Sculpty or the original Super Sculpty. And I'm just smoothing things out. I like to keep things smooth as I go. It makes my work a lot easier later. You also have a better idea of what needs to be done if you have a smooth surface in the face that you've sculpted already, what you've sculpted of the face already. So what I'm doing here is I am bringing my cheeks forward again. I am making those indents there and scooping along and then smoothing it out, bringing the cheeks forward. And I'm working on the brow and pushing back a little bit of that fat that's on the sides of the eyes. It was a little bit too much for me. You find I'll do that a lot. Now I'm pushing up the brow bone a little. I need my forehead to come out a little bit more. It's still a little bit too sunken in for me. So I'm going to add a little bit more clay. This is just a preference on head shape, and you'll have to look at your own doll to see where you're at. I made this piece quite flat, laid it on kind of like a Band-Aid, and I am filling in that spot. Just felt like she needed a little bit more forehead. I do tend to make big-headed babies, so anyway, people they usually can tell my babies because they do tend to have big heads. But my Sullivan had a big head too. We're going to just blend this in. Now, don't worry about the shape of the back of the head right now. I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on it, but I'm not really focused on that for this lesson. This lesson's mostly the face. I am focusing on keeping the shape of the head mostly right, but we're mostly working on the face right now. I will go back when we're doing the ears in the next video, and I will work on the back of the head in that video as well, because when we are done with the ears, we will bake the baby. We probably will add more to the back of the head as we add a little to the under chin and neck when we're adding the head onto the armature for the body, but that's in videos to come. Just smoothing out so that I can check my symmetry and check to see where I'm going. Where are we going to go next and what I need to do next. I need to build up this brow a little, lift it up a little, cause a little bit more of a indentation there and where the bridge of the nose, and I got to bring those cheeks forward still. Smooth down the brow. I'm also trying to make sure that I bring clay forward because we have a tendency, like I said before, to bring all our clay to the side and we end up with flat, wide faces, and we do not want that. Yeah, we do not want them flat. Look like someone dropped the baby on her face. I can see a lot of imperfections in the symmetry from here and right now. Some things I didn't notice while I was videoing that I do fix later on in the video, so just hold tight. I see it. But if you see it on yours, fix it. You have time. You can pause this video and move on anytime you want. Watch it over again, rewind it, all of that jazz. if you guys are having a good time and if you guys are learning anything, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear any comments you have. Now we're working on the nose here. I have a little sausage that I flattened out on the top and on the sides a little bit so that I can blend it into the brow line and into the cheeks and the corners of the eye. I don't like a blunt, abrupt transition from the nose to the corner of the eye. I do see that a lot, and I probably did it more earlier on in my sculpting as well, but it blends and softens at a really nice slope, and I work on that slope a lot, because I like it. The slope from the cheek, the slope from the inner eye to the nose, it's all soft lines. This is a rubber tip tool. This one's a softer rubber tip tool, and I'm starting to like them because they do have a little less, they have a little more give so that they don't move clay quite as fast. I usually work with a firmer rubber tip tool, but my cats ran off with it, with the one I had. I have no idea where it's at. I was sculpting on the couch and, well, they found it. So I have another low spot here that I've noticed, and I'm going to add some clay. The brow line on that side is lower, and it was very clear to me when I started trying to define the nose and shape the brow along with the eyes there that side needed some help. I'm also finding that I tend to push clay in the back of the head and the side of the head to one side, and I'm always having to remove it, move it back to the back and kind of rebalance. It's just something I do, I tend to do. The other thing I tend to do is sculpt one side of my face more forward than the other. I have to constantly be checking myself for that. I think it's a depth perception issue I have in my eyes, and it's something I constantly have to check here. So I'm back to my brush, and I am doing the corners of the eyes again and pushing into the brow line around the bridge of the nose. Now under the nose, I'm trying to connect the clay I put down with the clay underneath there, starting to give the nose a little bit of shape. Brushing it up into the cheeks, narrowing that bridge, and then again, it's just kind of going all over everything with the brush here. I'm shaping the nose, I'm shaping the ridges of the brow line, I'm blending the sides of the nose in with the cheeks, I'm getting a basic shape of where the nostrils are going to be and the tip of the nose. I do want this baby to have a little bit of a turned up nose, so the tip will be pushed up a little bit with some of it kind of coming down for the piece of skin between the nostrils, so that the little ball is a little higher than that little perky little nose. Is it looking human yet? Answer in the comments below if you think it's starting to look human yet. I'm not quite sure. I'm not convinced. You'll find I do a lot of brush work in the eyes and in the nose. Really, gosh, I use the brush for so much. I didn't used to. This is probably something I've been doing and progressively doing more and more brush work for the last 5 or 6 years, I would say. Maybe, yeah, about 6 years probably. Excuse me. It's when the whole less is more thing and the subtle movements of the clay can just make such drastic differences in your expression and so much. Okay, now we're going to define the brow a little, and actually a lot. I'm I'm actually pushing in where I'm actually using the handle of the brush more, not just the bristles. It's actually getting up into where the bristles join, and I'm making those big creases and shaping the brow. Now I'm trying to separate the brow line. This won't stay like this. Very angry baby. So I'm blending down the forehead into that line so that's not such a deep valley, but it still has the shape. You're going to find that I redefine the brow line over and over and over again because things move around as you go. Pushing down on the cheeks by the nose a little, pushing the nose back up, smoothing that brow line, and reshaping the head, smoothing out the line, the brow line, and around the bridge of the nose was just basically smoothing all over and reshaping as I go, like I do. Forgive me for pulling it a little bit out of view there. I was trying to get it closer to my face so I could see things better. I was checking for symmetry, redefining the brow line, and really wanted to get that close to my face. I hope you can still see it very clearly. I think you can probably see it a little bit better, but it's just not centered. I'll get better at this. Yeah, I had to add that coconut oil because it was sticking. You could see the drag on the brush. It was like it didn't want to slide on the clay, and you really need that brush to slide along. Smoothing is a very important part of it, and it needs to happen all through the process. It makes things a lot easier for you if that's what you do. Working on shaping the head a little bit here. It does make the little fat pads on the side of the face stick out a little bit much, but I will tame that down. Trying to keep her in the frame. So what do you think is going to do next? What does she need? You can answer in the comments below. You can give it a guess on what I'm going to work on next. I'm taking this piece and I'm kind of making it a bulbous, what I mean by that, it's kind of thick in the middle, like a mound. That's a better word. It's a mound that's a little bit narrower towards the top than it is at the bottom, and it's thin on the sides, mostly thinner at the top part, and more mounded in the center. And I do eyeball all these pieces and guess on what's going to be the right size. Oh, I guess we're working on mouth. She looks like she's wearing a mask. Poor 2022 baby. Bad joke, sorry. So now I'm just blending this clay up into underneath the nose and towards where the nostrils will be. I go deeper right at the nostril area, and I go less deep as it goes out into the cheek towards the mouth itself. Those creases will soften up as they go down towards the mouth. The folds are a little bit deeper towards the nose. And now I'm just kind of patting it to shape it how I want it. She still needs a lot more chin. And I'm noticing the cheeks are off here drastically. The one side has more cheek than the other one. So we are going to even that out a bit. And be careful when you're smoothing, especially when you get to the point where you've gotten a lot of your basic shapes done, because adding pieces on and smoothing them can undo all the work you've done. So you need to go back and fix that if it did. Excuse me, I'm going to plug my phone in real quick. So if you hear that, that's what this is. Oops, that's not it. Well, golly. Oh, maybe I'm not. And I just knocked over something else. Okay, so we just added a little piece of clay onto the chin area after we blended in that cheek. We will end up adding a little bit more to the chin. I just don't like to add too much. I don't want the chin to stick out. Babies' chins usually, not always, not everyone's the same, but usually dip back a little. They haven't fully formed their jaws yet, and so their lower jaw is a little back usually. So I want to make sure I don't give too much of a chin, but you still want somewhat of a chin. I'm just shaping underneath the chin and around the cheek area and just kind of trying to balance all of that out to see if I've got it symmetrical, if I need any more, or just blending it in and reshaping everything. I'm always reshaping. I'm noticing that one side of the jaw seems to be a little bit puffier. I think the cheek is a little bit puffier in the jawline on the one side. I'm going to end up adding a little bit of clay to the other side because I like the fullness that the face has on that side. If it was the other way around, if I liked the thinner side, I would remove. But we're not going to do that right now. We're going to add little starter holes for nostrils in the nose here with a dotting tool, and then I'm going to go in with a bigger one and go in a little further. I'll go in and pull out a little bit on the nostril, in and pull out. That widens the nostril and also creates a little bit of a kind of a crease between the cheek and the nostril there. Kind of gives it a little natural. Now I am widening it out more than what it will be. It will be adjusted with my brush as I shape the nose and with other tools. I don't like how narrow I made the space between the nostrils, so I'm going to add a piece of clay in there here in a minute. And it needs to be a teeny tiny piece of clay. And with these nails, it's a little bit challenging to get a tiny, tiny, tiny piece. But I'm going to stick it right on there. And then I'm going to use this tool here to kind of feather the clay together so I can smooth it into place. just working on the shape of the nostrils right now, tucking down. This is a very fine tip needle. It's not a needle, I'm sorry. It's a dotting tool, a ball tip stylist or a dotting tool, whatever you'd like to call it. It's a ball tip stylist or a dotting tool. I have multiple different sizes of these, and I find them to be very useful. I spend a lot of time on the nose, as you're going to see. I do a lot of brushing and shaping, and I use several different tools, just whatever I feel like I need at the time, depending on what needs to be done. But the brush tends to be my go-to when I actually get to the actual shaping. I'm pulling down right now into the creases. I'm actually pushing into the creases there and kind of wrapping it around and kind of curving my brush to follow the shape of the nostril. Smoothing out and stretching out that upper lip area. And creating a little bit more depth right in the folds by the nose. And now brushing it smooth. Again, using that brush to shape those nostrils. I want to shape the tip of this nose so that it kind of points up a little. I like a little ball at the tip. It's very cute. Noses are my favorite thing to sculpt. They are very challenging, but they're my favorite thing to sculpt. And there, you can get a little bit better view of what I'm doing. I tip the head a little. That was nice of me. Again, working with the brush to create more of a bridge there, creating a difference between the cheek and the bridge, but still blending them together. We don't have a nose that's just sat on our face. We have a nose that blends into our face. And so do babies. I'm picking up that tip of that nose again, creating the shape of the nostrils I want, and creating that little tip on the tip. Going back in those nostrils again. This baby's had its nose picked one too many times. I'm awful. Okay, I'm going to define the nostrils just a little bit more, and underneath here where the tip is, I'm defining that little round ball at the end of the nose where I'd like it to be. I do want there to be some definition, and I'm going to draw it right in very gently with the ball tip stylist, and then I'm going to brush it to smooth it out. I like the little shape that gives me. I'm going to round it off with my fingers. Nothing beats your fingers. very gently with my fingers. It looks like I'm pounding her face. I'm not. Now, I just want to reiterate again, this is how I do it. There are different sculpting methods. There are so many different ways that artists do what they do. This is just a window into my world and how I create a little face. And you're going to find some of these steps change as I go. Like, I might do a face tomorrow and do the things a little bit different order, but the basic things I do are the same. Now I'm just giving it an all over smooth again so that I can check symmetry, so I can see where I need to go from here. I'm noticing a low, well, it actually is a high cheek. I think I talked about that before already. But we're going to wait. We're going to work on the nose, so the mouth. So I'm going to mark the corners of the mouth to go with the corners of the eye. And then I'm going to draw a line. Now this is lower than what the mouth will actually be, because I will pick up the top lip from that crevice that I just created. But we're going to sink in underneath here to start creating our bottom lip and the little cheek folds that accompany it. I'm going to push the clay into the little holes I made, so we don't just have little holes there. Again, it needs to be a gradual sloping. The skin will slope into the shapes. It's a very soft movement. Instead of having just the little holes from the needle tools, you have to blend it in, because there really isn't holes there. I mean, there is holes in the corner of the mouth and where the mouth is, obviously, but the skin folds into it. It doesn't just like stop with a hole. Anyway, keep the curvature going there. Make sure that you're brushing the clay in kind of a curved motion so that you're not flattening it out too much. Same with the upper lip. Make sure that while you are smoothing it into the cheeks, you are keeping the cheeks plump and keeping that curvature at the front of the mouth and not flattening it out too much. I wish I would have added clay sooner to the lower cheek and chin area because it's driving me nuts. Now I'm pushing up with the brush, and I went into the line that I just drew, and I'm pushing up and curving it to start creating what will be lips. Now this is not the shape the lips are going to be. I'm just getting a basic lip going on right now that I will work on detailing at a later time. And then I'm pushing down and doing the same with the bottom lip. And pushing up at the bottom too. Push down and up from underneath. Yeah, there we go. It's starting to have a face. Wanting to blend some of this upper mouth area into the cheek a little bit more, closer to the mouth, so that that drastic line between the cheek and the mouth isn't, it's more subtle. I'm also trying to give this baby just a little bit of a grain maybe. Again, everything with this paintbrush, you will see that I use it 90% of the time. I'm shaping the bow of the lip there, but that will change as time goes on when I decide more about the expression. Right at this time, I'm just trying to create a subtle little smile, but I haven't really landed on it yet. Those things usually come later when I'm doing the final detailing. This is just getting basic shapes in right now. I know, I'm so sorry if this is boring to you, but this is what it takes. This is exactly what it takes. There's no time lapsing going on here. This is real time sculpting a face. Again with the smoothing. I think I'm finally going to realize I need to add to that bottom. Yep, there we go. See, that whole cheek is just not the same shape as the other one. Do you see it? I've been seeing it for quite a while on my video here, but I guess my eyes didn't see it as I was sculpting until now. The one side is much higher than the other. So we will fix it. Again, you can decide, do you like the thinner side or do you like the thicker side? If you like the thicker side, you add a little clay to the thinner side. If you like the thinner side, you take clay away. I actually have I didn't have to use it in this video, but I have an X-Acto knife sitting out here that I slice clay off with when I need to. And I have sliced clay off multiple times in my life. Oops. I sculpt with nails all the time, but it doesn't mean it's easy every time. And I drop things a lot. Going to be adding a little bit of clay here and a little bit of clay there until I get where I feel like I've built that side of the face up. I'm noticing that it's off by quite a bit, so I'm just going to add a little bit here and a little bit there until I have what I think is the right placement of enough little pieces, and then I will smooth it out. Just checking it out. I think that's good. I think that'll work. I think that once I get that smoothed out, that should be, well, it'll be a lot better anyway. This rubber tip tool has quite a bit of give to it, so I can marry these pieces of clay together without moving the other clay too much. And I'm kind of patting and etching the clay to kind of just get it to marry, I guess, to get it to the edges to kind of stitch together. And after that, I'll do some smoothing with my hands, with the brush, and with the other tools. I used to have this beautiful wooden tool. A friend of mine's husband hand carved for me. I had it for years, and recently, yes, the cats ran off with it. So it's in this house somewhere. I just don't know where. My husband always says, your cats are lucky you love them. And I do. I love my cats. So now again, I'm going back in to increase those creases between the folds of the nose and the cheek. But I don't want to go deep all the way down. It's deeper towards the nose, and then it becomes less deep as it gets towards the mouth. Now, if this was a fatter baby, you might have some deeper folds by the mouth. But I don't tend to make babies quite that fat. Now back to the brush. I'm pushing up a little bit to create a little bit more of I call it a turtle lip on the baby there. I'm pushing down on the cheeks a little by the eyes and by the nose. I like to kind of create that, I guess it's sort of like a little diamond shape, I guess, underneath the eye towards the nose. I don't know if you understand what I mean. I can't really. It's kind of like where you put your highlighter under your eyes if you were doing makeup. I kind of push the clay to kind of create that a little bit. Just smoothing away. You need a little more chin. What'd I tell ya? It's like I knew what I was going to do. And when I did that, I also noticed that I still didn't add quite enough to the other side. Or maybe I've got to blend that together and make sure that the cheeks meet the chin in the same fashion on both sides. So there will be some adding of more clay here, right there. Just marrying the clay together in the corners, trying to create a nice corner of the mouth. It's really easy to get that part too deep or too harsh, I guess. Just shaping the under. Now when I add this head to the body, since we will be sculpting a complete baby by the time all the tutorials are done, all the lessons are over, when I add this head to the body armature and actually sculpt the neck in the head onto the body, there will be more under chin added, some little chubby, that will be how the head is connected to the neck by adding a little bit to the back of the head and to the chubby part of the chin underneath. So we aren't doing that today. That will come much later. Reshaping again. Okay, I'm getting ready to get these eyes sculpted. I bet you've been wondering about that. So I'm just redefining the brow line again, getting my eye sockets all ready. Gonna make sure that I've got everything where I want it, so that when I start doing the eyes, which for me is the hardest part. The nose is my favorite, and it takes time, but I like it. The eyes for me are challenging. They tend to take me the longest and give me the most problems. But I love sculpting babies, so you gotta take every part. I can't have any eyeless babies. I mean, no, I can't. Can I? No, that would be terrible. So we're going to pat that piece of clay in there, and we are going to start trying to smooth it in. I want to try to get it so that it stays curved, so that the eye doesn't go flat. And I need it to blend into the brow line, and it blends more towards the outside than the inside. It blends both ways, but I end up having it kind of like curve into the brow line more on the outside of the eye because there's more eye fat there, eyelid fat. So that's what I'm working on right now, and you will see that it takes a while. And the second eye actually usually gives me the most problems. So this first eye might seem easy, and I'm like, oh no, it's so hard for me. But you will see that the second eye takes me a lot longer and is more difficult for me. Trying to get that piece of clay to blend in and not devour my brow line, and to shape well into the corner of the eye, to not go too wide, to not go too flat. Yeah, lots of things to think of. I'm going to redefine the corner here, and I'm pushing very gently with this tool. It is a ball stylus. I am being very, very careful to create this inner eye area and the bridge of the nose and the brow line with the ball tip tool. They are very firm, so they will move clay more than the brush will. And sometimes I do need a little bit more help, and that's what I did. But then I still go back with the brush and smooth it out. This is a very gentle touch. I'm hardly pressing on the clay at all to give a very subtle shape of the eye in that area and smoothing it out and trying to make it believable. Just smoothing and shaping. Again, trying to blend the brow line up in, trying to make sure that it stays separate from the eye while still subtly sloping into it. Trying to keep the corner of the eye and the bridge of the nose and all of that blended well and shaped right, and trying to make sure that my eye doesn't go flat. Now I'm going to add a little bit of clay underneath the eye because I noticed that it needed a little eye fat there, a little under eye fat. And so I just placed it there, and I'm going to start pressing it with this rubber tip tool and just kind of pressing it into place, and then I will blend it. Again, to me, the eyes are just the hardest part. I think that the eyes mean so much as far as the look of the doll and whether or not people fall in love with it. There's something about the expression in the eyes that draws people in, even in a sleeping baby. It's the brow line and the shape of the eye, and just people just really are drawn to that, and I find it very challenging to get that look that I feel says I'm peaceful or I'm cranky or whatever. I'm smiling right in the sleeping baby's eyes, but you can. You just got to be patient, and then patiently blending in this little piece of clay underneath the eye there and trying to shape it to be that perfect little under eye fatty bag. Nice. Little fat deposit there under the eye. Just smoothing and smoothing. Sorry about that. I will bring it back up here. I know we're right at the bottom of the screen here with what I've been doing, but I'm getting it closer to my face so I can see, but I think you can still see it, so I hope so. I'm trying to angle it so that you can see it. What types of babies are your favorite? Do you like sleeping babies or awake babies? You can comment below. I like sleeping babies the best. I think they look more realistic. I think awake babies are really cute, and I have several in my collection, but there's something about photographing a sleeping baby that just to me, you can get that. You can fool people in those pictures more if you get a really good angle and a really good pose. They can look more realistic, like a sleeping baby. I think that the eyes are a dead giveaway on awake babies. The sculpting can be super realistic and amazing, but the eyes tend to give it away. Still just shaping and shaping. Once you guys get through the video and you're sculpting, or if you've sculpted before, what is your favorite part of the body to sculpt, or your favorite part of the face to sculpt? Like I said, I like to sculpt the nose, and I find the eyes the most difficult. What do you think? You can comment below. That'd be awesome. The eyes do take a little bit of time. And I don't really have, other than having the corner of the eye like meet up with the nostril, which I try to do on both sides, I don't really have like a certain rhyme or reason as far as sculpting the eye. I mean, I guess maybe I do. The biggest thing is try not to flatten it out, try to keep that curve going, and going in with the needle tool again. And I'm kind of giving it an upside down curve, like an upside down smile, like a frown curve this time, because I think it gives her kind of like a little smile in her eye. I know it's funny, when her mouth smiles, her eyes frown, and that kind of makes them look like they're smiling. So I'm creating a smiley eye, which is, like I said, a frown. Okay, can we do it? Can we get the second eye? Oh, I've already seen this. I know it's challenging. I know I have a harder time with the second one than the first. But here we go. Should I just leave it like that? Call it a pirate? Okay, time to smooth that little ball of clay in. I made that one a little bit bigger, hoping that I wouldn't have to add the under fatty part, but I still ended up having to add some. He's looking pretty cute though, I think. Starting to come together. Starting to look like a baby. Looking human yet? Comment below if you think he's looking human. I don't know why I keep calling. I think I was calling him a she earlier. Now it's a he. I don't know why. Just keep working on smoothing that clay and making sure that you don't flatten out the eye. Trying to keep the distance between the eyes and the nose the same on both sides is challenging, and that's something that I keep going back and rechecking, and it's part of what makes the other eye take so much longer, is I tend to do a drift. I tend to want one of the eyes to kind of drift the other direction, and be a little further from the nose than the other one. So it is something that I struggle with, and that I am fighting all along while I'm shaping the second eye. It's one of the things that I am trying to not do, and you'll see me pushing clay towards the nose quite a bit in my smoothing process and my blending process with the second eye, because I tend to want it to drift the other direction. And I'm checking up and down right now. I need more clay here. That side of the brow and the forehead and the cheek around the eye there got pushed back, which I have a tendency of doing, and so I need more clay there. And I'll just feather it in here. I don't want to shift around any other clay. Being very cautious to not change things I've already done. So I'm just feathering in this clay with little scratches with my tool here, feathering it forward and backward until it gets to the point where I can smooth it out with another tool or my fingers. Just very, very carefully. And checking again if it needs more. Oh. Reshaping with my hands. I like to use both hands on either side of the face to reshape. I got kind of sidetracked from the eye here, reshaping the head, but I think that was a good idea. I think that I noticed it was off so much that it was going to be hard for me to move on with the eye if I didn't do that. So now we can move on. Trying to blend it into the brow without flattening out the eye and making the eye go too wide. Also trying to make sure that it stays as close to the nose as it should. We're getting there, folks. Doing a little upside down shaping. I wish I had an easy way to make this like super snappy for you to do, like put clay here, put clay here, put clay here, and you're done. But it's just not how it works. There are certain things you can put clay here, and put clay here. But all the other things, it's just very subtle movements and very subtle shifting of the clay and forming it into something that resembles human. Takes time and patience and practice. So don't get discouraged if your first one doesn't look like a human. It's okay. My first one did not look like a human either. My very first baby I ever sculpted looked like a leprechaun. It was horrible. He literally looked like a leprechaun. I wish I had kept a picture, but I didn't. And all he ever was a head. But he was a leprechaun head, and I painted him, and he stayed in clay, and I painted him, and I gave him hair and everything, and he looked like a leprechaun. I moved on to sculpting fairies and mermaids and fantasy women after attempting that baby head, and didn't sculpt babies again for a long time, only like 6 years ago. So it just took knowing the clay. So you're going to see here that I am pushing the clay with the brush again, trying to shape that eye so that it's shaped the same as the other one, or as close as I can get it, to try to make sure the distance between the eye and the nose is the same as the other one. Doing my best. I keep readjusting it and looking at it and trying to smooth the clay into the shape of the other eye. I think that's probably why the second eye is harder, because you have another eye to mimic and the first one gets to decide what it wants to be. I mean, hopefully it wants to be an eye, but at least the shape and stuff, it kind of, the first one, when you're not doing a portrait, can kind of flow into the type of eye that it wants to be. And the second one has to follow suit, or try to. I wouldn't suggest trying to do portraits early on. I mean, you can if you'd like. There's no rules, and there's no wrong way. But I think getting the basics of how to handle the clay, the proportions, and all of that is more important. At least at first. I'm rolling it around to get some evenness going again. So typical of me. We're getting there. Once we get this eye done, then we're going to go in and we're going to just redefine the mouth and the nose a little bit more and some shaping. And I could go on and on and on shaping. Eventually I just have to stop it with this video. We will be shaping some more when we get onto the ears and we start doing a little bit more of the back of the head. But I will stop before the head is fully shaped the way I want it to be. But we will have a face completed. We're getting there. It's all the subtle smoothing. Back and forth, back and forth. And then just trying to get those eyes to match. Don't give up if this gets challenging, because it is. It's still challenging for me after almost 20 years, and I just don't give up. And and now I'm a lot faster at it than I used to be. You will get faster at it, I promise, if you just keep doing it. Just put clay in your hands every day. I mean, if it's something you really want to do, spend an hour, half hour even, every day with the clay in your hands. Getting to know how it moves, getting to know how it reacts to tools, getting to know how it is in your hands, and also learning anatomy and comparing what you're sculpting to real pictures of babies. Not saying trying to sculpt them, but you can, but I'm not saying you have to. But try to get the proportions correct. When the eye's in the right place, is the nose in the right place, is the mouth in the right place, is my head shaped like a baby head. I mean, all of these things that you can start looking into more and more. And trust me, when you first start, just making features is like a bonus, even if they're way off the charts on where they're supposed to be positioned on the head. If you got an eye and it looks like an eye, if you got a mouth and it looks like a mouth, got a nose and it looks like a nose, then you're onto something. Just keep going. Okay, we're getting there, getting really close now. Just making some subtle adjustments to both eyes to try to make them match as much as I can. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video so far, and I hope you're looking forward to the next one, which is going to be sculpting this baby's ears. In that video, we're going to be sculpting some ears off the head, actually a couple different times, to just kind of get the hang of it, and then we will sculpt ears onto the baby's head. So there'll be like 3 or 4 times that you're going to see it done. That you're going to see pairs of ears sculpted on that video. We will also be doing some shaping on the jawline and the side of the head to create a place where we're going to connect the ears. We will show where the ears should line up and all of that jazz. Below, in the links below, you will find some documents that are pictures that you can print of proportions of a face, and there may be a couple of other things yet that I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to put in this video or the next one. But there will be a picture of a face and the lines of where the different landmarks should fall on the face, and you can print that off. Just subtle changes, little tiny subtle changes, shaping the eye, both of them, to try to get them to match as good as I can. Keeping that eye nice and rounded. Smoothing out any harshness that I created with that tool. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but I am under LR Design Studios on Facebook. And if you would like to message me with your attempts from this video, I would love to see them. You can send me pictures through Messenger at LR Design Studios on Facebook. There will be a link to my page in the description below. You can follow me there, and you can message me there. Message me there if you have any questions. Message me if you want to show me your works in progress. Also, you can message me if you're interested in purchasing a silicone baby or a silicone kit. I do sell my babies as kits. Actually, I sell them as kits more often than I sell them completed. We're getting really close here. Be sure that you like this video and subscribe to my page so that you don't miss the next videos if you enjoyed this one. If not, then I'm sorry. I tried. I am a little bit of a novice in the recording as far as recording these types of videos. I've done a few, but I'm just now starting to get the proper equipment for it. But my videos will get better as we go along, and I've enjoyed this so far, and I hope that you found some value in it so far. Just doing some smoothing and shaping, getting some of the side of the face iPad down, and then reshaping the jaw. Yeah, those little fat pads get a little bit too much, and I have to smooth them and reshape them. We'll probably work on that a little bit more when I go to do the ears. Okay, I'm creating a little tear duct in, just very, very subtle. This is a small baby, so you don't want it to be really big. So we've got a really tiny ball stylus that I just kind of stuck into the corners of the eyes there, and then I will smooth it out Very, very, very subtle. I'm going to work on shaping the lips. I decided I wanted him to have thinner lips. And a little bit of a grin. A little tiny bit of a grin. I'm just going to go around and work on everything I see for a while until I finally say, okay, I could work on this all night, and I can't because the video will be way too long. We're going to do some final detailing on the nose and on the mouth. And then I'm going to say, okay, I'm done for now. But not yet. Not yet. This little one still needs a little attention. So I don't have a name for this one or for the sister that I sculpted first and lost the footage of that you saw earlier on, and you will see at the end of this video. If you have an idea for the names for these sculpts, leave them in the comments below. Excuse me. We're getting really close. I have a tickle. Sorry. I do apologize. I'm doing this voiceover and I don't want to stop it because I'll lose it all and I have to do it all over again. So, yeah. All these little subtle changes make a really big difference in the shape of the mouth, in the shape of anything really. Just pushing the clay a tiny little bit with the brush or with the tool can change the whole expression of a baby. And right now I'm just doing a lot of fine detail work that I could have probably went without doing for this video, but I was hell-bent on doing it, I guess. Just getting in there into the mouth and giving it some shape, redefining things. Shaping that upper lip. I don't expect that when you first start sculpting that you're going to see all these little subtle things that need to be worked on. You're going to see that you got some basic shapes right, that you got the eyes right, that you got something that looks like a nose, that your lips are in the right place, or they start, and that's great. I want you to be happy with that. I want you to be really pleased with yourself if it resembles anything human. And it will be something that over time you'll get better at different things at your pace. If it doesn't look like my baby, don't stop. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years and I still have so many things I need to improve on. I try to improve with every sculpt. So it's a process that never stops. So don't expect to be there on your first try. And if you are, awesome. You're a prodigy and I'm happy for you. I really am. I want everyone to succeed. but I don't want people to be too hard on themselves. Like all these little details that I'm noticing right now, you might not. You might quit. I don't want to say quit. You might end your sculpting on the face a lot sooner, and it'd be fine. It's just something that I have grown to see, and I'm still not seeing everything, I'm sure. There's other artists out there who will probably see my work and see all the things that they would do differently, which is great that we all do things differently. We all have our own style. I love that. I love that about this art. And I love cheerleading for everyone. So I'm not in competition with anyone here. I like to be a cheerleader for all artists. And I hope that you are too. Makes it a lot more fun. So I'm making this bottom lip a little bit smaller, and I'm defining the actual chin area a little bit more. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I'm done, and then I do something else. We're getting there. And I have a cat crying outside my door. I'm sure you can hear it. That's Vegas. I can tell by her meow. I am locked in my recording studio room that isn't soundproof, but it's the best I got for now. And I have a cat that is just heartbroken if she can't be with me. She'll get lots of loving when I'm done here. Putting some little detailing in the lips. And then brushing it out to make it more subtle. Just going to go over with my hands and smooth some things out. I'm getting there. Now I'm literally just being extremely picky with myself and just touching up little things here and there, which is totally fine. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to just have to tell myself I'm done here in a second. Or not. This is what happens with artists. We become perfectionists and we continue to nitpick every little thing, which that's good. I mean, it's because we want to grow and we want to be better. But don't be hard on yourself either. I'm happy with this little face. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. In the short amount of time that it took me to sculpt it, I'm pretty thrilled so far. Just going to redefine those eye lines, because they do tend to get a little lost and muddied when you smooth a lot. Create the little crease. A little eyelid crease. That's one of those features that I probably end up sculpting into the same doll 3 or 4 times every time because I lose them, the little eyelid crease. But there you go. What do you think? Does he have a name? Or she? I don't know, I think I see this one as a little he, but I'm not sure. And that's the little face that I sculpted and lost the footage of. That's definitely a girl. Yeah, I mean, both could be girls, but I'm kind of seeing a little girl and a little boy. Of course. Oh no, heaven forbid, I found something else I need to do. I think I just wanted to shape the head a little bit more before I stopped. Yeah, just shape that forehead. I wasn't satisfied stopping there. He's a cutie. He's a keeper. I like him. So I could spend like another 3 hours just fiddling with the brush and little tools here and there just to make subtle, teeny tiny changes. And I probably will. I probably will. But this is what we go through. Oh, redefining that little chin again. Let's brush it smooth. Cutie. I'm going to give it an all over smoothing. Carefully so I don't destroy any of the sculpting work, because it can melt it. The coconut oil can. Get him a little squeeze, and there he is. And let's see, do I decide that he's there, or do I want to fix him again? And there's his sister. I really fell in love with her face when I sculpted it. She just came together so quick and easy, and just, I was like, oh, I just love her. And then the video was like, not there. I was so upset. But there they are, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you liked it, and I hope that you subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to make comments in the comment section, or follow me at LR Design Studios on Facebook and message me anytime. If you have any ideas for their names, comment below. And it might be next week, but at least in 2 weeks we'll do sculpting ears, but it'll probably be next week that we'll do sculpting ears, because that should be a pretty short video. I'm hoping that you enjoyed this and that you will come back and watch the next videos. Thanks so much.